Hello, I'm Steve Phillips and welcome to another episode of Audiobook Club, a podcast about audiobooks that knows the difference between its big girl voice and its outdoors voice. On this episode, we'll be reviewing and hopefully recommending Fibber in the Heat by Miles Jupp. And in our Notes from the Margin feature, we'll be asking, how new does an audiobook have to be considered worthy of recommendation by Audiobook Club? Joining me down the line from Adelaide in Australia to help me in this double-headed endeavour, as ever, Matt Layton. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm just wondering how we creep out from the margin into the full arena of Audiobook Club to discuss how new an audiobook has to be considered deserving of some Matthew Layton attention here.
You don't. Let me put it this way. There is a sentence in the world of audiobooks that has irritated you more than any other in the past couple of months, and it was the following.
Penguin Audio presents Mac the Life, written and read by me, Lee Mac. The book I'm about to read to you is the autobiography I wrote in 2012. And apart from the very odd change or reference point, is exactly how it was written back then.
Now, how did that make you feel, Steve?
I felt I should be charged the price of 2012. You know? That's what I felt. I thought when I was downloading this, I was going to get, Lee Mac's life up to 2022. I'll be honest. And then when he said, I wrote this book in 2012, and apart from the odd comma here and there, it's exactly as I wrote it. So I've not done anything else in the last 10 years.
So you were sold a brand new audiobook and felt you were shortchanged by 10 years.
It felt a little bit of a... Yes, I felt I'd been sold a little bit of a pony. A little bit of a pony. Obviously, I love Lee Mac. I think he's the funniest. And obviously up to 2012, really, I'm all in. I would have liked to have heard 2012 to 2022, I guess. Well, that could be volume 2.
I have listened to the book on your irritation. I was going, Steve must be wrong here. I'm going to listen to this book and I am going to like it. And then I listened to the book. And to be honest, that sentence didn't irritate me. But in the course of the book, he has on days and off days. And I think the difference between book 1 and book 2 would be... Well, book 2 would be book 1 all over again, but with series 17 to 30 of not going out and his 7th, 8th, 9th to 15th stand-up tour. I'm not sure it would be anything new. I get the impression that he's one of those comedians who thrives on the reaction of an audience, because when listening to him read the book, I just felt there were days where he was phoning it in, basically.
I think you're right to the extent that actually this would have been the first audiobook that needed an audience. And that would be
exactly.
A new thing.
But that would be incredibly tedious. And you see, the thing is, having said all this, what today's program is mainly about is the first audiobook I ever received as a gift, and it was a gift from you, which is Miles Jupp's Blagger in the Heat. Fibber in the Heat, I beg your pardon.
You're
Miles
right.
Jupp's Fibber. Miles Jupp's, yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? Miles Jupp's Fibber in the Heat, which was published in 2012. So with one hand, you were fed up with 2012, and yet with the other hand, you were giving me the gift of 2012.
Yeah, but the subtle difference is Miles Jupp at no point at the start of the audiobook says, I wrote this in 2012, and actually it was probably published around then as well. It's not like he said, it came out last week and said, I did this in 2012, because actually he couldn't, with the best will in the world, Miles Jupp does what he does, which is, to be a comedian, a comic actor, writer, and all the rest of it. He couldn't really carried on as a cricket commentator, trying to get away with it for 10 years since he originally wrote the book.
No, okay, so that leads us to talk about the author, doesn't it? So he's a comedian.
Yeah.
I know he's the type of comedian that you like, and that's how we came across this, because you read a book by somebody you like. Like you, he is a mild-mannered Englishman in many ways. There's it's sort of an England of the past he embodies, I think, if that's fair.
Wistfully hoping for the past. Yeah.
Yes, the salad days of the 1920s, the green fields of England, minor boarding school, all of that type of thing.
Peaches and
I
cream.
also like that. Yeah, exactly. So we know him because he is a comedian. I've written some notes here. I've written mock the weak reserves. I think he's appeared a couple of times on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, but mainly doesn't pay attention on that. And then you're the expert, of course, on the Radio 4 panel games, one of which he presents, others of which he has contributed to.
Yeah, so he hosted the news quiz for a number of years, and he was one of the best hosts there's ever been on the news quiz, in my view. I thought he was absolutely excellent. Yeah.
BBC Radio 4 is where you get is basically where you find the core of UK comedy establishment. So you go back as far as the Goons, the Goodies were on there, weren't they? And then all of those people, those that aren't dead, are still there, really, aren't they?
Well, a lot of them sort of when you listen to audiobooks of their biographies, at some point it comes out as, of course, we started off in footlights,
which of course then goes on to encompass Fry and Laurie, doesn't it? So there's sort of, and then goes on to do Mitchell and Webb. So there's that sort of comedy DNA that goes through Footlights and BBC Radio 4, which is.
Although, interestingly enough, and if I could bring something from the margin into the main arena again, I heard an interview with Tim. This is related, by the way, because it's Miles Jupp trying to be a cricket commentator, and actually there was an interview on Test Match Special where Miles was trying to get into, or he was sort of mixing with those people, and it was an interview with Tim Key. So the comedian Tim Key, who, you know, his sidekick Simon Allen Partridge, and he was in The Witchfinder recently on BBC Two, and he got into Footlights as well. But I really liked his story because he never went to Cambridge University. He just turned up for an audition and he had to blag his way through Footlights, saying, "Oh yeah, my locker hasn't come through yet, and my email address hasn't come through yet." He had nothing to do with Footlights, but he got a part in a Footlights show. So I quite like that.
Okay, that's quite impressive.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. Yeah.
But there is this thing, and some people think perhaps this has been going on for too long. This sort of, well, again, they tend to be white males, don't they? The people who come from that. I mean, some people think it needs shaking up a bit. So maybe Tim Key was doing the right thing there.
Yeah. No, I think it was a good thing to get into. Yeah. Good on him.
But. Miles Jupp, I don't think he was. I think he went to university in Scotland, if I remember from the book. In fact, the thing that he almost got fame for that he didn't want. He managed to succeed as an actor, as we find out in this book, by appearing on a children's television program in a pink kilt. And at one point in this book, he finds himself on an arena tour as part of this children's program, very dissatisfied with his lot. He said, "I'm standing there and 10,000 people are screaming for me. I just didn't want to be there."
Yes, well, I mean, it's happened to everybody, hasn't it? Really, you suddenly find fame and fortune. You're playing into those massive crowds. It's unfortunately those massive crowds. Average age is 7 years old, and you're in a pink kilt because you're on Balamory. Yeah,
and I loved all that story of his life. I loved his autobiographical thing. Again, his childhood. I've kind of flicked from talking about him to talking about the book because, well, it's an autobiography, so that you're going to find the bits that I know come from this book. But I love the way that, as I say, he was the son of a former clergyman. As the book opens, it starts with his childhood, who was rather vague, full of an office of sort of dusty files and the occasional cat. And in his childhood, he fell in love with the sport of cricket. I think it was while doing Balamory that he went to a particularly historic cricket match, and it kind of inspired him to decide that he wanted to become a cricket journalist. So he wanted to blag his way into some cricket matches, and chose to do it on an early 2000s England cricket team tour of India. That's correct, isn't it, Steve?
That's right, yeah. And what I don't get is that the character of Miles Jupp as a person, and he comes across as you say, very, very deeply English, and with the English will come the social awkwardness and so on, and the over politeness and everything. But the fact he had the kahunas, you know what I mean, to actually go, actually, I'll have a crack at that and see how I go.
I absolutely agree. In fact, when he's doing, he has to phone the BBC and a newspaper in order to get himself a press pass before he leaves. And there's just a bit of it where I go, God, I wish I could do that on a phone call. I've had to make sales phone calls in the past, and I haven't been that, well, not aggressive is not quite the word, but focused and determined. I was very impressed with him. He didn't, in those moments, he didn't come across as the sort of the Hugh Grant light figure that he portrayed himself as.
Yeah, no, completely. He did all the things. He did all the things that we would only sort of think, I can't possibly do that. I can't call that number. I can't get on the tour to India. I can't blag my way to become a journalist. I mean, he does sound very uncertain of himself the whole way through, you know, until he gets accepted by the people who he's working with, which I really liked. And he was, you know, I mean, how you pass yourself off as the cricket correspondent for BBC Radio Scotland, I mean, and all the raised eyebrows he must have had there, just like the cricket correspondent for Radio Scotland. We don't have much call for that. Even Radio Scotland said we don't have much call for you around here.
Yeah. And at this point, I would say that this episode of Audiobook Club has been going reasonably well. I'd give us a 7. But it's time to bring it to a screeching halt, Steve, because as discussed before on this is a really great yarn, but I cannot stand cricket. As somebody who can't see very well, the idea of going to a sport where there's 100 meters away, there's somebody throwing a small brown leather ball at 100 miles an hour. It's not really something I'm interested in, and even watching it on the telly, I never really get it. And it's kind of like there's a language of cricket, isn't there? That if you're a member of the club, you find it settling, and it reminds you of, you know, lush green playing fields and people wearing blazers and Panama hats. I have to say, it's a world that doesn't appeal to me at all. You're a fan, though, aren't you?
Oh, I love all that. I love that it's so chilled. It's the best sport to watch. The only thing I'd say, if you're not a fan of the sport, is it's a day sitting in the sunshine, and there's Pim stalls, and there's, you know, champagne stalls, and there's beer. You know, you can just have a nice afternoon. It sounds like it's like a, you know, it's a massive alcohol fest. It's not, well, it can be, but it's a nice sort of nice relaxing afternoon with friends. I mean, let's face it, we probably all don't sit gripped for the whole 7 hours to our seats, because you don't. You end up sort of wandering around, having a look at the, you know, the merchandise stall, getting another beer, you know, that sort of thing, having a chat. And yeah, so you don't necessarily have to actually like the sport, probably.
Well, so I was concerned when I went to this. They say that golf is described as a good walk spoiled. I was worried that this was going to be a good story spoiled by endless cricketing stories and cricketing language that I find impenetrable. You know, the whiffle on the leg pass blown by with a skinny divot. You know, that kind of thing. I love your
cricketing positions you come out with. These are great. I want you published. Well,
I don't need to. Here's the real thing.
When Hoggard eventually nibbled at a leg cutter from Srisanth and was caught behind, their partnership of 20 had taken 70 almost totally excitement-free balls. But then Steve Harmison strode in, looking uncharacteristically sparky, and set about the Indian bowling attack with the nonchalance of a man playing an arcade game. He cover drove 3 cent for 4, top etched a hook for a single, and then proceeded to sweep Cumberley to the boundary as well. Then he struck 3 cent for boundaries through cover and gully. He brought up England's 300 with another 4 from a front foot pull.
This must have been hell.
You can see where I might have had a problem there.
Yeah, point taken.
There's almost a thing, though, where he says it was quite boring. He admits in there, listening to it the other time, that all of the cricket language just sort of wafted over my head. But there's just a thing where he sounds quite vagued out by the whole thing as well. But the whole boredom thing seems to be part of the experience of cricket, and it's one that's seen as positive, Steve, I think.
Well, I think you're right. The way he describes everything, that particular passage sounds like your nightmare of an audiobook, basically. However, the thing about the game, first of all, is at some point it gets you. And mainly because there's been a build-up of tension over a prolonged period, and it comes to a real kind of climax. I sound like I'm describing a filthy book here, by the way, when I'm saying this sort of stuff. But seriously, this game just it gets you. I don't know what happens. I don't know what happened to me when I was a kid, but it was just like, this is the best game ever. But if you haven't had that...
It didn't get me at all, but I have to say that the whole experience of listening to him tell his story and his laconic delivery, I think, possibly a way of bringing both worlds together. I enjoyed the story, and when he started talking like that, I kind of vagued out, which it sounds to me is somewhat like your experience of watching a cricket game. There are just bits where you don't pay attention, and that's part of the ride, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Exactly that.
Although he does talk about people around him who perhaps don't necessarily feel the same way as he does. And there was a bit where I just started the book, and I was going, this is going to take a long time. And one of the characters says this.
Australia have just taken the new ball, I announced cheerily, looking up from my mobile. This news was greeted with silence by the rest of the group, and so I attempted to explain this announcement. I had got as far as saying, in test matches the bowling side can ask for a new ball after 80 overs, before sensing that no one wanted to hear the rest. If you don't shut up about cricket, said Martin, I'm going to go out and buy a cricket bat, just so I've got something to stuff up your stupid lazy arse.
Which I thought I was going to be feeling, and I didn't. And I really enjoyed the experience of the book.
I'm glad about that. I mean, it's a story, isn't it? It's a story of one man doing something he shouldn't have been doing, and he had no right to be there. But by the end of it, not only had he, there's that sense that he had got the right to be there, but actually really ingratiated himself with the professionals around him as well, which was really nice.
It is a story, so I'm to a certain extent worried about spoilers, but I don't think we need to worry too much. He meets his heroes. He ends up drinking with them in bars. There's a lot of drinking and a lot of being hungover. There's that part. We all talk about the polite part of an Englishman, but being in a hot country, wearing a Panama hat and mopping your brow when you've perhaps spent a little you've been a little too deep into your cups the night before is part of it as well. But then there's that bit where he has the crisis of, well, it's an imposter crisis, isn't it? He realizes that actually the people sitting around him are there to do a job. This is not the jape that he is on for them, and he realizes that it's probably not. He should let the people sitting in the press room get on with their jobs, and that perhaps he doesn't belong there, and it isn't fair of him to be there.
Yeah, he has a rough time, because I understand how he feels, because there's that sinking feeling that you shouldn't be there, that you've no right to be there. Plus, he has misfortune after misfortune, because he's obviously, not obviously, you haven't heard the book yet, but if you have, he gets hired by BBC Radio Scotland to do reports into them. He gets hired by the Western Mail, who are only interested in one of the England players, Simon Jones, who actually is injured. So he's got no one to report on there. They're not really bothered about any of the others from a regional point of view. So he hasn't got anything to report on, and he also comes down with a strong case of stomach disease. Not exactly what he had, I can't remember now.
Yeah, he had an emotional crisis that was then set upon, then doubled by a physical crisis that sounded a bit like this.
And then suddenly, amidst all these doubts and uncertainties, I became painfully aware of one absolute fact, which was that I needed to get to the lavatory extremely quickly. I thought momentarily about the food that I had eaten from the stall by the side of the road, and then charged into the bathroom, dropped my trousers, and collapsed onto the pan in the certain knowledge that something absolutely appalling was about to happen. I opened my account with a fart of such intensity that you would probably have been able to lean against it. This was instantly followed by a bowel movement that was so unbelievably violent that it asked some serious questions of my sphincteral elasticity.
Sphincteral elasticity, that's something I never thought I'd say, Steve.
.com, yeah. That's yeah, I feel quite bilious after hearing that again. It's the description. This is the power, and this is going back to the form of audiobooks over the written word as well. Is you can hear that bowel movement, and you can really experience that fart that you can lean against. It's just
And again, it's his mild-mannered delivery. There's some incredible swearing in it. It reminded me of, again, that portrayal of Englishness as done by Hugh Grant in 4 Weddings and a Funeral, where the fact that the swearing comes in is almost a bit of a shock compared to the politeness of the rest of the performance. And I think, again, this is the one, as you know, Steve, I often say that when I see that the author has read the book, that's not always a good thing, particularly if it's somebody who's just an author. But in this case, we're dealing with an actor, a comedian, and a radio presenter doing his own book. And it's as I say, that mild-mannered, understated delivery that in the hands of anybody else would be boring, but in Miles Jupp's hands, he makes himself incredibly engaging, and I ended up caring about him, even though the subject matter of the story was not something that I was particularly interested in, and in fact actively bored by, and had, I put up my own barriers to it, but still he won me over. The one thing I felt was missing, Steve, is have you ever been to India?
I have, yes. Yeah, a couple of years ago, went to India, Kerala, very nice.
Very nice. I didn't at any point get that onset of that tsunami of sensory overload that one gets when one steps out of the plane in India. I just didn't get that from this book. I felt that it was quite neutrally described, and it's interesting hearing him do the accents of people who he meets, be they Indian Cricket Board press officers or taxi drivers. I think there's a bit where he's being careful about doing stereotypes. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's not something that stuck out for me with that book, if I'm honest. I agree with you on the sensory overload piece, because when you do go to India, if you ever get the opportunity to go to India, I mean, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. It's just full on. It's so busy. And if you think Oxford
Sight,
Street in
smell,
London is
sound,
busy,
heat,
yeah, everything.
The way people talk, the way people interact with each other. I didn't really get much of that from this book.
No, I don't think, and you know what, I don't think you would. Because much of the action was centred on cricket grounds and hotels and and buses between the two places. and that's where most
Yeah.
of the story takes part. So it'll be in the hotel, it'll be on the bus to the hotel, trying to sort of ingratiate himself with everyone who's going on the press bus, and then at the cricket ground, of course, in the press box. So yeah, I guess I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't disappointed because I wasn't expecting it, because it wasn't that kind of story.
Yeah, and this, as I say, the story in itself is frankly good enough.
Yeah, I mean, he becomes a hero. You know, he's a bit of a hero for having done it. And he was interviewed, years later actually, about it all, and everyone obviously knew what the ruse was, because he published it in a book, of course. And it was actually, you've got to admire him for actually doing something like that and getting away with it. And so you do instantly like him, because he's very affable, because he's because of his delivery and his mild-manneredness and all the rest of it. You do really get into that. So would you listen? Is there any other book you would listen to that involved cricket if it had a similar kind of vibe going on there?
No, but I think I've done enough cricket now, but I'm very, very grateful to you for gifting me this audiobook. It was very nice to receive an audiobook as a gift. I enjoyed this. Funnily enough, I then went on to read, I started binging the box set. I then went on to read his novel History, which again is about a mild-mannered Englishman in a boarding school, and it didn't have a particularly happy ending and left me somewhat distraught. I'm not sure I would recommend all of Miles Jupp, but this is certainly a very enjoyable, light and frothy read.
Yeah, it's a really nice feel-good listen, this one. Really enjoyed it, and I definitely. Would you recommend? It's important. I loved it because I love the sport. I really like him as a comedian. Would you recommend this?
Absolutely, to anybody who is a cricket fan or not a cricket fan, to anybody who enjoys that understated English sense of humour, I would recommend this heartily, Steve.
Fantastic. Well, if our listener wishes to play along with Audiobook Club, what should they be reading next, Mr. Layton?
Well, next couple of weeks, Steve. I'm wondering if you've done your homework. Next week we have a guest recommender on, Shane Kendall, who is going to be reading NoFX, the Hepatitis Bathtub and Other Stories.
Yes, and frankly, the first chapter's already given me nightmares. I've never heard anything so graphic in my life.
Yeah,
gives you an idea.
And
it's no Enid Blyton in this one.
It is not Enid Blyton. We've been pushed out of our comfort zone. There is a point where you and I are going to have to talk about milking another human being.
Yeah, that was a surprise, that one.
Yes.
Yeah, look forward to that. Again, no, it's no James Herriot. Yeah.
No. Well, no, but James Herriot, it is, really, isn't it? If you remember.
Technically speaking.
I thought that, and then I sat down with Wizzy the other day. She likes animals. She wants to be a vet. And we listened to the first chapter of the first James Herriot book, and I didn't remember it being... quite as up to the shoulder as it was.
As up to the shoulder as it was. I mean, they couldn't be too graphic on a Sunday night on BBC One back in the 80s, of course, and Channel 5, of course, now.
No, but read the book, and yes, it's elbow deep doesn't quite cut it.
Is it right about Stephen King and Dean Koontz? Is it?
Yes, yeah. It's funnily enough, I'm reading a Stephen King at the moment. The Hepatitis Bathtub and Other Stories by NoFX, 1980s punk band. Some people an autobiographical piece by some people who've taken some very different decisions in life to the ones that we've taken, Steve.
Yeah, I get. Well, chapter 1. I refer thee to my answer on. I refer thee like it's 1612. I refer you to my answer given some moments ago, like I'm in the Commons. What am I doing?
Then the next one we've got, the week after that, is The Bullet That Missed by the man who describes himself on Twitter as that bloke off that thing on the telly, Richard Osman. I think it's his fourth whodunit book. So right back square into our comfort zone again after that, Steve.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Fantastic. Right, well, that was Fibber in the Heat, our audiobook. Oh, by the way, just to screech to a halt there, what's our view on the age of audiobooks before, that we recommend them? How new does new have to be for you?
Yeah, and the answer is I think it's like any book club, isn't it? If it's a good book. I mean, you mentioned Thomas Hardy this week. Oh, we forgot to mention Cannon and Ball. We mentioned Cannon and Ball last week. Bobby Ball, of course, played Lee Mack's father in...
He did?
Not Going Out. So legitimately, we can mention Cannon and Ball 2 weeks in a row. So you and I aren't afraid to be slightly stuck in the past. And I don't think we should let newness discourage... I mean, remember, the idea of this is that other people are meant to come and recommend us books. Next week's book is from 2016. I think it's important to be across the big new releases of the year and to find those hidden gems. But also, if you think of all the books that line the shelves in your house, how many of them came out last week? And the answer is not many. So I think a balance of the two moving forward.
Moving forward, that's what we shall action going forward from here. Moving on forward. Sounds
Next
good
slide.
to me. Next slide. Oh, by the way, just a point of order, Mr. Chairman. This is the first time we mentioned Cannon and Ball. Last week we mentioned Hale and Pace. We're rapidly going through the ITV comedy double acts over the course of the week here. Just goes to show you how interchangeable Cannon and Ball and Hale and Pace are, doesn't it, I suppose? There we are. Right, that's Fibber in the Heat. Following England in India, A Blagger's Tale by Miles Jupp, narrated by the author, comes in at 8 hours and 10 minutes and was released on the 10th of May 2012, published by Random House Audiobooks. And that about wraps it up for this audiobook club. We'll see you again next time.